Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar, Accelerating Your Spiritual Life Through Kriya Yoga. I am Nayaswami Maria, and with me here is Devalila, and together we will be sharing with you on this topic. Following a sharing, we will then have a guided practice together, and then we will follow that with an opportunity for question and answer. So at any time during the talk, you can put your question in the chat box. We will be receiving those, and we will have an opportunity to address them. I'd like to begin by sharing with you just a little snippet of my own personal story in regards to this theme. I was a student in college, age 20, and of course it doesn't matter what age we are, but that's the part of my story. And I was looking at my life, stepping back and looking at my life and thinking to myself, considering, this doesn't seem to be flowing the way that I would like it to. I had opportunity, I had friends, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know where I wanted to be. And the bottom line was that I wasn't inwardly happy. And when I pinpointed that, for me it was a personal revelation. And I realized I have got to learn how to be happy anywhere, at any moment. Because what I wanted more than anything else in my life was to be able, as we all might feel, to contribute something meaningful in this world, to be able to help those around me whom I love, and to be able to serve others. And it occurred to me, how can I do this? How can I have any hope of doing this if I am not happy in myself inside? And this is a universal theme. I don't think there's a single one of us who don't have that longing in the heart. It defines human nature, the longing to be happy, the longing to be inwardly happy. It is our divine birthright. The very name Ananda means joy, and it is a reference to this inner joy, the divine joy within the self, within every being created. And it's that, the longing for that joy, that precipitates an aching in our hearts when it's not there. When we look around, when we busy ourselves in activity, in the world, doing this, doing that, and there's a little emptiness inside our own self. We live in very challenging times. You listen to the news, we're aware every day of changes, of tragedy, of compromise, of challenging and sorrowful circumstances in the world. It's easy to feel that we can't do anything. What can we do? How can we make a difference? I don't think there's a single person who doesn't know someone who hasn't suffered deeply or experienced tragedy. And globally, it is such a visible arena that we are now exposed to on a daily level in these so-called modern times. But it is important to remember that throughout history, great people, great masters have lived in times such as these, equally as tormenting, equally as challenging. There is no safe place. There is no guarantee of safety. There is no guarantee of security. And there never has been, not on this physical plane. We think there is, and we look for it, and we look for it, and then we realize, I'm not happy. I'm not happy within the self. When we experience happiness, our energy is open, ready to greet the world, ready to share, ready to give. There is a movement of energy upward. And when we are without happiness inwardly, when we don't feel that, when we feel disappointed, discouraged, sorrowful, our whole posture reflects that. Our eyes are downcast. Our mood is indifferent. You know the symptoms. You know that experience yourself. When we are serving in the world, when we are looking out for a greater reality other than just ourselves, when we're trying to help the person next to us, help the stranger, we feel an expansion of consciousness, an openness of heart, a wanting, a desire to give. And when we don't see that, when we don't desire that, when we aren't aware of a reality greater than ourselves, our very posture reflects that. And following in suit, our consciousness, our habits, our way of being, the way we spend our time. These times are given to us because we can be vehicles of light. We can be vehicles of change. We can seize this opportunity as great ones have who have gone before us. They have shown us the way to open up, the way to give, the way to expand our consciousness. And all of these reflect a growth in spirit, an identification with the spirit within. And the more we align ourselves in that and with that, we accelerate our spiritual life, our spiritual growth. When we look at our lives in terms of energy, we can see wherein that change might need to occur. Follow with me now mentally. I am thinking of a place, of an environment. We behold a great expanse, but we cannot see clearly the detail. We want to get from here to there, but we cannot see how to make that journey. And so we climb to the hilltop, we climb to the mountaintop, and we see out there before us this great expanse, but details before unseen are now highlighted. We see perhaps a clear path before us. We see the river, we see the swelling rapids, we see the calm of the eddy over on the side, we see the way of the passage, we see the detail, we see where to go. And this is the journey that we take to accelerate, to open to a spiritual life, a forward life, a life that is embracing others, a life that includes others and takes them into our heart and carries them in our heart. And we're there for them. We're there in an expanded vision and an expanded awareness. And this is the opportunity that we have, accelerating, growing in our spiritual life, in our ability to relate to a greater reality, our ability to relate to others in the world. And so as we take this journey and we see that with clarity, there's an energy, a magnetism, an offering of the self in the highest sense. And this has a power of attraction, a natural, inherent wanting to give and wanting to serve and wanting to be an instrument and wanting to include others in our joy. And this is what it's all about. This is what we live in our hearts. This is how we grow in our hearts. This is how we are able to give to the world and serve others and be in that consciousness of a higher and greater reality, no matter what the circumstance, no matter what the situation or experience in our own lives. This is the opportunity that has been given. When I consider my own life and how to open to this opportunity, how to take from where I am right now and go forward in a way that is expansive and inclusive. And how can I do that? How can I be that? And that opportunity is inside our own self. It is through the practice of inner awakening and inner unfoldment. We open up to that great reality. We leave behind that which is small, that which is little, that which is not useful to others, and to being an instrument and a part of a much greater reality. I was reminded by a friend recently of this very opportunity because it lives for us every day in the world in which we live. It's not just compartmentalized. When we work with techniques of greater awareness, when we take up the practice of meditation and meditation technique, for example, we're simply reclaiming our oneness with everyone. We're identifying that piece of reality that unites us all, that brings us all together. It's a common language, a common thread that we all share. And when we can experience that, life looks very different. It may or may not change outwardly, but it looks very different, and it is very, very different. And so this friend was sharing with me an upcoming move to an urban area. It had been decades since they had lived in such an environment. And to a certain degree, they were afraid of the move, afraid of not feeling safe. But that safety is of the heart. That safety is inward. We live in challenging times. We will not find it without. And I commend all of you for partaking of this webinar today, because there is some part of you that recognizes that understands that we have to find that piece of reality, that piece of perfect harmony within our own being, and then we can bring it to that reality outside of ourselves. And so this was the experience of my friend asking this. Indeed, let me feel this within my own self, that I may feel it without. And this is really at the core of the practices that we're inspired to share with you through these courses. This is really at the core of that which we're trying to communicate today. As I started off just saying, my own experience, I need to be happy within so that I can share this without. I need to be happy, feel happiness within so that I have something to give, because that is why I'm here. That is why I breathe the earth of this planet and these surroundings is to be able to share and give and do my little part, the little part of all of us, to create a circle of harmony, a great expanse of harmony that includes everyone, that rejects no one. This is the opportunity that we have all been given. And so I invite you to take this step with us. Look at your life, see what you have, see what can be different, and understand that that process of becoming, that very process of expanding, starts within your own self, and that it is natural to you. It is very natural to you. It's how you're made. It's the way you're built. And the techniques that we will be offering help you to frequent that, to remember that, to draw on that, and to be your expanded self in every situation, to be your expanded self, no matter what life presents to you. This is not an easy world to live in, and we are blessed to have techniques of expanding awareness, helping us to see a bigger picture. You know, when you set out on a journey, as I said earlier, and that journey is far off ahead of you. You can see where you're going, but you can't see how to get from here to there. And so you start to climb the hill, the nearby hill, and you climb further and further and up and up. And finally your view becomes circular. You can see everything around you, in front and behind, to the left and the right. Your eyes can take in the whole of it, and your heart can feel it. And so you see the expanse of countryside, and you see the river, and you see the rapids, and you see the calm waters, and you see the dense forest, and you can see where you need to go. It may not be an easy journey, but it is a worthwhile journey. And these techniques of higher awareness, of meditation, give us that very opportunity. So I'd like to just invite you all to take advantage of what you have, the step that you have taken to be here, to listen to this program, to listen to myself and Devalila sharing with you. Take advantage of this. You've come to this for a reason, not only because you have the inherent skill within yourself to do this, the ability within yourself to do this, and the desire, if you didn't have that desire to do something about your circumstance, to contribute somehow to the world in which you live, you wouldn't be listening to this today. You wouldn't be listening to us speaking. And so I want to just close before I welcome Devalila and just thank you for taking advantage of this opportunity and doing what you can to breathe spiritual strength into your life so that you can share that inherent strength, that expanding, ever new strength with those around you, and make an offering to this world and to all circumstance, every circumstance, something for the better, a ray of hope, a ray of light, a ray of divine love. Thank you so much. Thank you, Maria. That was beautiful. And welcome, everyone. My name is Devalila, as you've heard now.
I'd like to share a continuation of what Maria has shared with us on accelerating your spiritual life through Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga was brought to us through Paramhansa Yogananda, and this is the Kriya Yoga that we teach. One of the points that Yogananda gave us about spiritual growth, about how to advance spiritually, he said that everything that we do to advance spiritually involves two things. One is withdrawal from outer involvement through the senses, and secondarily, directing that energy upward to the spiritual eye or to the higher centers within. And these two aspects, withdrawing from outer involvement through the senses and directing our energy upward, are really what the path of Kriya Yoga is about. They are the techniques and teachings that help us reclaim and harness our energy so that we can direct it, so that we can choose higher aspiration. It might be worth exploring, and you might wonder, what does this mean to withdraw from outer involvement through the senses? It does not mean that we don't enjoy the world. It does not mean that we can't experience life in its fullness. The truth is, when we withdraw our energy from outer involvement through the senses and direct it upward, we can experience with much greater freedom, with much greater joy, and with a complete, full heart, all that life has to offer in a much higher way, because we're non-attached. We're not attached to the condition of any outer event. Maria spoke about happiness. There are two main motivations that we all share. One is the desire for happiness, and another motivation is the avoidance of pain. And both of these tend to motivate our actions. So through this search for happiness and the avoidance of pain, the typical approach is through the senses, is through some outer way, some outer form, thinking that if I can only get my outer life in order, if I can get the right job, the right house, the right partner, my health, whatever it is, that then I will be able to grow spiritually, then I can focus my attention on this, then I will be happy. But the problem is that our happiness is not going to ever be found in an external event or condition. It may be temporarily. We may have some desire fulfilled, and we feel this sense of joy in that desire being fulfilled, but it's not too much long afterwards where we need something else. We get a new car, and then we need something else to enhance our new car, or whatever it is. There's always that additional thing because it's not in the thing. It's not in that external event. And this is why spiritual advancement, the two things are withdrawing from outer involvement through the senses, directing it upward, because this is where our happiness is. It's within. And the techniques of Kriya Yoga, the path of Kriya Yoga, the teachings of yoga of India, of our masters, which we refer to because they mastered themselves. We call them the masters of yoga and of themselves. Through this, we learn to be unconditioned in our happiness. Through these techniques, we carry with us a happiness that is unaffected by any outer event. And this is not something that happens overnight. It is a journey. The path of Kriya Yoga is a very comprehensive spiritual path, and it's really a way of life. Kriya Yoga itself is a technique. It's a pranayama technique, which helps us harness our energy and direct our energy. But it's much more than that. There are more than just this single technique. There are several techniques that help us direct our energy, focus our mind, calm our mind, all of these things that are necessary for our spiritual growth. So what is it that once we discover, if we know this, that the two things for our spiritual advancement are withdrawing from outer involvement in the senses and directing that energy upward, what prevents us from just doing that, from just withdrawing and directing our energy and accelerating our spiritual growth just by the decision alone? Well, the ancient teachings of yoga identify what prevents our spiritual growth, our spiritual progress, but they also give us the remedy. They give us the solution. And this whole path of Kriya Yoga contains this solution to help us in this journey. What prevents us is something that is universal to all of us. Just as we have a physical body, a physical anatomy that is basically the same as human beings, we also have an energy anatomy, an energy body, which we refer to as the astral body. And the astral body, you may be familiar with that term. If not, you're probably familiar with the term an aura. Our aura is this energy body around us, around our physical body. And if you believe in reincarnation, which is part of the teachings of yoga, is that we incarnate again and again and again with different lessons, different things that we have to learn, overcome, transcend for our eventual freedom. And each time that we reincarnate, our astral body comes with us. And all of the karma, all of the likes, the dislikes, the attachments, the desires, the aversions, our habits, our tendencies are registered in this astral body. And the way that those are overcome and we become free of that is either through fulfilling a desire or by dissolving it through wisdom. And so you can imagine there are millions and trillions of all of these things. There are things that we know about in our life, that we're aware of, that we have a tendency toward a behavior, or we have a habit that we know we need to overcome, that we know we need to change if we really want to grow spiritually. Well, all of these things, this is part of this anatomy of the astral body, of the yogic teachings. And when we recognize that we want to change our habits, we want to change our behaviors, and we want to be more spiritual, we'll often do things like take up affirmations, or take workshops, or go on a fast, or take up an exercise program. All of these things are extremely beneficial, and they help us, they assist us in changing our patterns. But in some respects, they're working from the outside in. And the power of Kriya Yoga, why Kriya Yoga is so sacred and so incredible, is that Kriya Yoga works on the source of that habit, on the source of that desire, by dissolving it, by helping us direct our energy inward and upward. And it dissolves it in a way that allows for more and more energy to flow through us. And this is the great, incredible gift that we've been given in this age. We are, it seems, at times that we're in an age that is not going forward, that is not improving. But the teachings tell us we actually are. We have entered a higher age, and the evidence is that we recognize energy as underlying all of matter. This is one aspect. Expanded consciousness. In the darker ages, matter was everything. We considered, as mankind, we considered matter to be the final reality, that there was nothing more. And as we've been entering into this higher age, we're recognizing greater and greater realities, not only outside of ourselves, but within. And this is an age where mankind is more open, more receptive, and more able to have a high technique, such as Kriya Yoga. And this technique is something that we teach through this method of training. It takes about 9 months to a year to prepare for Kriya Yoga. And all along the way, you're learning techniques, you're learning ways to work with your energy, ways to change in a way that is dynamic and powerful and lasting. Maria spoke of that beautiful image of climbing a mountain and seeing everything around you. This is a beautiful image for Kriya Yoga because you are given the tools and the techniques not only to climb that mountain, but when you see the path, you have everything that you need to make that journey. Instead of bumbling along, tripping over rocks, getting lost, you're given a clear pathway, clear techniques, clear ways for reaching the journey of really discovery of who you are as a soul. This is the ultimate goal of Kriya Yoga, is to awaken to our soul nature, our true nature. And all of us, regardless of where we are on the journey of spiritual awakening, of the spiritual path, whatever path we're on, we intuitively know that there is something more, that we are not our habits, that we are not the behaviors that hold us back, but somehow in this knowing, the knowing is not enough. The knowing that we are not that is not enough to make the change. It's helpful. The techniques help us actually harness that energy and make that change. And this is the power of Kriya Yoga. I have a friend who's been part of Ananda since the beginning, and this is over 50 years now. He is a minister and teaches Kriya Yoga, teaches the path of Kriya Yoga, and he teaches in India regularly. He also teaches here in America. And one time in India, he was teaching a group about Kriya Yoga, talking about the path of Kriya Yoga, the power of Kriya Yoga. And a man stood up, raised his hand and said, "Can you tell me what you have achieved in all these years, in these 50 years of practicing Kriya Yoga? Can you tell me what special powers you have achieved?" And my friend stood there for a moment and he thought, well, I'm not sure what special powers have I achieved. And he said, no, there's one thing. There is one special power that I have achieved through these years of practicing Kriya Yoga. And that is the power to choose to be happy under any circumstance. Regardless of any outer condition, this is freedom. This is true inner freedom. We're no longer conditioned over time through the practice of Kriya Yoga, through the techniques and the teachings of this path. We become less and less conditioned by outer events. Because it's not, as I said earlier, it's not in the outer event. It's in our response to that outer event that makes it either bad or good or happy or sad. It's our reaction to it. And again, knowing these things, it is a first step. But the techniques of this path help you go beyond just knowing so that you can live these teachings, so that you can really truly embrace these greater realities and awaken to your higher self within. I want to end with something that Kriya, which is a person, a minister who teaches Kriya Yoga, shared with me. It's a beautiful way of expressing this. And she put it in writing, and I'd like to read it to you. She said, Kriya Yoga is rooted in inner harmony. It's rooted in inner balance. It is the natural anatomy of the human body, of how we are made. We learn how to work with this energy, purify it, direct it, and transform our being into, as Yogananda called, a portable paradise, so that in any circumstance, we can hold on to the peace of our inner being. It allows us to disconnect from the limitations of the body and transcend those of the ego. And this is the path of Kriya Yoga. And we invite you to embark on this journey. There is a course beginning March 31st called the Ananda Course in Meditation. And it offers two of the first techniques of the path of Kriya Yoga, Hong Sa, meditation, and the energization exercises, two very sacred techniques that Yogananda brought that are part of the path of Kriya Yoga and will help you right away, right from the beginning, begin to experience less attachment to outer events and more inner freedom, more ability to respond to life rather than react to it, to respond in a way that addresses your highest self, that helps you improve, that helps you grow, that helps you be who you know you are. So we invite you to join this course, and we'll be sending you the link afterwards, but I wanted to mention it now in this broadcast so that you can start thinking of that or explore it online. And I would like to now close as Nayaswami Maria will be guiding us in a practice to help us experience this inner energy and the connection between the breath and the energy within. Then, after about 5 minutes of this exercise, we'll have time for questions and answers, and then we'll end. So, bless you, and we look forward to the rest of our webinar.
Let us now sit upright and close your eyes and feel your awareness at the heart, the region of the heart. And I invite you to be aware of your breath there just for a few moments. Let the breath do whatever it will, come and go. Relax in your body. Now with your awareness, bring that energy up to the point between the eyebrows at the center of the forehead. And relax your awareness there. and mentally equate peace with the flow of your breath. And let that feeling of peace expand around you, filling your immediate environment. And moving out into the community of which you are a part. And offer your peace above and below, to the left and the right, and feel it moving out across land and water barriers, encircling the planet. Feel this encirclement as one of expanding peace, expanding harmony, touching the hearts of all humankind, of all nature. Each breath feeding this reality of expanding peace. Now, as you draw your breath in, feel it through the nostrils. Feel it at the forehead. Your whole physical being now bathed in this feeling of peace and light descending from above, from the point between the eyebrows, down in the spine and out through the body, through the limbs. Feel yourself revitalized, made of light, made of peace, and a powerful channel in this world of light and peace, ever animated, ever brilliant, because this is your reality at your very core. Take a breath in now through the nose. Gently squeeze the hands. Feel the energy coursing through your physical body as peace and light. Relax on the exhalation. And slowly open your eyes, viewing the world around you with the consciousness of peace and light within. Om, peace, Amen.
So at this stage, we would like to see if you have any questions, and we can spend about 10 minutes or so answering questions if any have come in online. Okay, so Jitendra will read those to me.
Thank you, Devalila. The first question comes from Uday Kiran. And the question is, how to focus while meditating? I get distracted with thoughts.
This is a very common issue. I think all of us can relate to that, getting distracted with thoughts. The minute that we close our eyes and try and get quiet, then the thoughts suddenly flood in. One of the most powerful ways is watching the breath, is just simply to observe the breath. And there is a technique that I don't know if you're already practicing any of the techniques of our path, but the technique that we teach in the Ananda course in meditation helps us focus our mind through a mantra, Hong Sa, with the breath. And this technique of having a mantra with the breath really helps us to focus the mind and focus the energy.
Thank you. The next question is from Janina. And the question is, hi, what are the steps to Kriya Yoga initiation? Do I need to first take the meditation classes referred to in the Ananda website?
The steps toward Kriya initiation are 4. There is the Ananda course in meditation where you learn 2 techniques, but you also are practicing those 2 techniques. So I want to, before I answer this fully with the steps, I want to say that learning the teachings and learning the techniques is one part of it. The real preparation for Kriya Yoga is through the practice, and that is over time. And as we practice over time, we come up against resistance, we come up against things in our own life that give us an opportunity to transcend and move through, and those things help us get rid of stuff, so there's more energy moving forward, so that we're more an open receptacle for Kriya Yoga, so that we can really take Kriya Yoga in the deepest way. The steps are Ananda Course in Meditation, living the principles of self-realization, where you are learning the attitudes and the way of life through these teachings that Yogananda expressed through the teachings of Patanjali. And then the Course on Discipleship is the 3rd step, and this is where we explore the guru-disciple relationship and whether or not this really is your true path. And this is an opportunity to explore that and what that really means. The 4th step is preparation for Kriya Yoga, and there are more techniques taught in that course, bringing in everything you've learned and applying them plus more techniques. And then from there, Kriya Yoga initiation is given. It's about 9 months to a year. So, okay.
Thank you, Devalila. The next question is from Yvette. Is the specific Kriya technique mentioned above different from Kundalini Yoga?
Yes, it is different. Kundalini Yoga is a different technique altogether. However, Kriya Yoga eventually will help awaken Kundalini. But this path of Kriya Yoga that we teach, that Yogananda brought, is you might call it steady and even and balanced. And it's the awakening of Kundalini will happen in a natural way, whereas the path of Kundalini Yoga, if you're referring to the one that I'm familiar with, it's more of a forcing that Kundalini to awaken, and this is a very different path that way, if that is what you meant. So.
The next question is from Dojo, and the question is, are muscle spasms normal before or after Kriya Yoga?
Energy can be awakened in different ways, and if that is what that is, that could be the expression of that through muscle spasms. It could also be something physical. It could be some nutrient that your body needs. And I know, we often apply the spiritual to all of these things, but sometimes it is something basic like physical. So Kriya Yoga does not cause these things, but sometimes when we're on the spiritual path, we're practicing techniques, we'll have some experience of, moving or tingling or some sensation, and that's indicative of energy awakening, and it's really nothing to be concerned about. It can be a good thing. But it's hard to know exactly what's happening for you specifically without knowing more.
The next question is, how many levels are there in Kriya Yoga? How long does it take to practice every day?
Kriya Yoga is ideally, in the beginning, you want to be practicing at least an hour a day, a half an hour in the morning and a half an hour in the evening of meditation. And this, again, the path of Kriya Yoga is more than just the single technique of Kriya Yoga. We teach Kriya Yoga the way that Yogananda taught it, as a comprehensive spiritual path. It includes other techniques, and a large part of our meditation time is also spent in silence, in silent communion. So a half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening, up to 45 in the morning or 45 in the evening to start with, and then people can build from there. But that's usually a starting point. The levels of Kriya Yoga, I want to say they're not so much levels as they are deepening of Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga, the way that we teach, has four levels. First Kriya, second Kriya, and then third and fourth Kriya are taught together. And those second Kriya and third and fourth Kriya are taught after some time, after at least two years, maybe more for some people, before you would go to the next Kriya, and then it would be again another year or so. And this is really not to be confused with like, I need to get more techniques in order to move forward. It's more about letting go. It's more about self-offering. It's a lot more about our attunement and our surrender and our living in harmony with our higher self. These techniques assist in that, but they are not the end goal. The end goal is ego transcendence, and this is what our aim is. And when we approach it that way, then things will unfold in the right timing and the right way. So,
thank you, Devalila. The next question is, after the first step, the first meditation course, does this mean we need to find our guru?
No. You can enroll in the first course with there's no obligation to anything. It's really just it can be an exploratory experience for you if you like. The second course, again, no obligation whatsoever. It's really, if you wanted to approach it that way, I'm just exploring this, I'm feeling it out. Is this mine? Does this feel right to me? Does this resonate with me? And is it helping me? And do I recognize in some other part of myself that this is the right way for me? So these things, they do take some time. We can't always know that right away. And so there isn't any obligation. And then even in the third course, the course on discipleship, there is no obligation to take a discipleship vow. You can take that course and explore what that means, what discipleship entails, what it means to have a guru, and what that relationship is. And then from there, you can make that choice if this is yours or not. And it's really only up to you. Only you know, ultimately, what is right for you. And I think we have time for just maybe one or two more. Okay.
Thank you. Looks like this last question. Does Kriya Yoga help curing existing physical and or mental diseases?
Well, Kriya Yoga works on the deeper cause of the mental issue, of the physical issue. Whether or not there's a cure and a healing, that is dependent on your own karma. There may be a reason for, say, an illness. We were recently reminded of a story of a woman who was a saint. She was a very saintly young girl, and she would pray for people, and they would be healed. They would always be healed, 100% success rate. She was just really amazing. And her father was very ill, very seriously ill. And everyone was pleading to her, please why don't you pray for your own father? You pray for strangers, you pray for all these other people, and you don't pray for your own father? And finally she agreed. After much protesting, she finally agreed because there was so much pressure. She prayed for her father, and he was healed. And soon after, he left the family, left the spiritual life, and he went on to live a very, for lack of a better term, a very low choices, and compared to where he was. And this is the thing, that illness was actually was helping him in ways that were unseen, that others didn't see. It's not always what it appears to be. Kriya Yoga will work on the deeper root issues, but the results are not always up to us. They're up to God, they're up to Guru, and when we're at that place that we're practicing Kriya Yoga, then this is part of it. We're surrendering to that higher will in our life to live in harmony with it. We're not dictating what we demand anymore because we've recognized that doesn't work out so well. What we want got us here to this point, and we realize that now I want what God wants. Now I want what my higher self wants. And so,
does one qualify for Kriya Yoga initiation after completion of the lessons?
All the courses are required, and it's a process of different for everyone. It's not like learning to be a plumber or an electrician or some skill. It's involving inner realities, and so everyone will be different. There are some people who are ready, very ready, right? When they've completed it, they're ready. And then there are others who really intuitively know that they want to take more time. And so that's a decision that we make together. At that stage, when you've done all the steps, we explore this together. And it's not that we have to be perfect to receive Kriya Yoga. We don't have to have everything perfected. But what we do have to have is a certain level of practice in place, an attunement, an understanding, and a willingness. And this isn't really quantified so easily because each of us have different karma and a different timing, inner timing. But mostly, yes, that is true, that you would be ready. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. I hope that some of your questions have been answered about Kriya Yoga, the path of Kriya Yoga, and thank you, Maria, for a beautiful, inspirational sharing, and bless you all. Namaste.